think that air travel is automatically connected to fanciness and luxuriousness, think twice, because we are going to destroy that mindset today. Many aircraft have been considered to be the worst aircraft ever. Some aircrafts are even considered bad because they are a pain to accommodate for airports. This is often related to things like getting passengers and cargo in and out in a more efficient manner. Others are just plain dangerous, terribly outdated, or both. Most of them stop flying in for a good reason, but some are still flying high. So let's see the 10 airplanes you won't believe could actually fly. Number 10, Airbus A340. The Airbus A340 is a long-range, wide-body passenger jet airliner that was developed and produced by the European aerospace company Airbus. In the mid-1970s, Airbus conceived several derivatives of the A300, its first airliner, and developed the A340 quad-jet in parallel with the A330 twin-jet. To many passengers, there is a noticeable sluggishness to the A340, almost as though the A340 doesn't have enough powerful engines to get it off the ground. Passengers often notice that the A340 takes longer to get airborne and to cruising altitude. This means that passengers are often left popping their ears for longer than they would on a similar aircraft. This sluggishness is also seen in the A340's cruising speed. The A340 has a cruising speed of Mach 0.86, which is noticeably slower than the Mach 0.89 of the Boeing 777, which, by the way, often flies more similar routes. Number 9, Aerospace Line Super Guppy. The air traffic controllers were so doubtful that the plane would even get off the ground that they notified police and fire departments to be on alert, but the Super Guppy proved them wrong. On September 19, 1962, the bizarre new aircraft took to the skies near Los Angeles when former Air Force pilot Jack Conroy took off and safely landed this specially modified hulk of a plane without a hitch. He inaugurated a new age of airborne transport led by Aerospace Line's Guppy family of aircraft. This shiny silver monster, then known as the Pregnant Guppy, looks more like an airship than an aircraft. It is the epitome of the design philosophy of go big or go home. The idea of this airplane came from Jack Conroy and Leo Mansdorf in 1960. And guess what? This aircraft had parts from every aircraft you could imagine. The wings were from a Stratocruiser, the nose wheel assembly was snatched from a Boeing 707, and the propellers were part of Lockheed C-130 Hercules. Well, it might not be the prettiest airplane invented, but it actually got its job done. Number 8, Canadian Vickers Velos. The Velos was at least awarded one accolade. It is generally agreed to have been the worst airplane ever made in Canada. Resembling a winged breakfast nook or perhaps a flying trolley car, the Velos was designed to be a photo survey airplane, presumably with a shooter standing in the glassed-in front porch and snapping away with a big speed graphic on a tripod. The Velos was essentially designed by Canada's Department of National Defense, reminding one of the maxim, "A camel is a horse," designed by a committee. The only Velos ever built flew so badly that Vickers company pilots referred to it as a dead loss. Despite its test pilots' report that the Velos was the most unsuitable for any operations carried out by the Royal Canadian Air Force, it spent exactly 1 year flying for the RCAF before sinking at its moorings during November 1928 storm. Had Canadian Gordon Lightfoot been alive, he might have written a song about it. Number 7, Kalinin K-7. The Soviets might not have built particularly advanced airplanes, but they sure built some big ones. Igor Sikorsky's Ilya Muromets series of transports and bombers are the best known, with classic photos showing crew members strolling atop a fuselage in flight like Nelson on the quarterdeck of HMS Victory. But Konstantin Kalinin's 7-engine monster attained new heights of flying locomotive excess. So it's not that surprising that photoshopped images on the internet of a 12-engine K-7 bearing battleship gun turrets fooled many. Early test flights revealed that the airplane's floppy tail structure resonated badly in response to prop wash from that 7th engine, a late addition so the K-7 could get airborne. During one thankfully short test hop, the elevator oscillated through an amplitude of 3 feet. Now it's hard to imagine whom the Soviets intended to bomb with the K-7s, but perhaps an airplane with a bigger wingspan than a B-52 would have simply frightened its targets into submission. Number 6, Tupolev Tu-204. Tupolev Tu-204 was supposed to be Russia's answer to the 757, but just as with the 757, the Tu-204 suffers due to many different reasons. The Tu-204 is known as being one of the worst aircrafts for a number of reasons. First of all, the Tu-204 was so badly constructed that from an engineering point of view, the FAA refused to certify the Tu-204 to fly there. The Tu-204 is also known for having an unloading issue. The Tu-204 stands so high off of the ground that people struggle to get off of the aircraft. There are a few stairs that have the height to reach the cabin, and a few jetways are able to connect with it. This means that passengers often struggle to get off, which causes many to abstain from using the aircraft. Number 5, Ilyushin Il-96. The Il-96 is known as the Soviet jumbo jet. It is comparable to the 747, the A340, and the MD-11 in capacity, design, and uses. As with many Russian-made jets, it is woefully behind its Western competition. For starters, the Il-96 is far more sluggish than even the A340. The Il-96 takes far longer than the A340 to take off and reach a cruising altitude. The Il-96 is also far slower than the A340, cruising at Mach of 0.84, which is noticeably slower than even the slow A340. The Il-96 also suffers from what many other Soviet-era airliners suffer from a lack of proper maintenance. This means that creaks and bangs aren't uncommon during flight. There is also the fact that the Soviet-era seats simply aren't that comfortable. Sure, the casual Russian passenger might not mind them, but Western travelers complain of severe back pain, even early on in the flight. Number 4. Delayed Duo Mono. A grim joke about aircraft accidents is that a pilot is always first to see the scene of a crash. If the duo mono went down, however, the crew would arrive late since both men sat in the tail. Because of superficial similarities, some aviation historians have confused the Delaney tandem wing designs with Pierre Magnet's flying flea concept, but that is, forgive the pun, a canard. The control systems and overall concepts were very different. Maurice Delaney put his second wing at the tail not only to exploit helpful aerodynamic interactions between the two wings, but to provide a center of gravity range broad enough to permit a comparatively small engine airplane to carry a big tail gun. The concept of a fighter with a maneuvering pilot and a separate gunner, often working at cross purposes, was fatally flawed. However, Delaney's design was consigned to the dustbin of aviation history. Number 3. PL-11 Air Truck. As goofy looking as it is, the PL-11 Air Truck was in fact a successful crop duster, appreciated by the pilots who flew it for a living. Only 2 were built in New Zealand, but some of the 118 examples of its successor, the Australian Transavia PL-12 Air Truck, are still at work all over the world. The 2 air trucks were designed for a specific job, aerial application, rather than adapting a conventional airplane to the task. The pilot was placed high above the engine and the chemicals hopper, rather than sitting between them waiting to be crushed in a crash, and the perch gave him a superb view for low-level maneuvering. The aft fuselage, often severely corroded by spilled chemicals and conventional dusters, was simply eliminated, replaced by 2 appendages at the ends of simple booms. Then the booms were intended to allow easy loading from a truck backed up between them and an oft-stated myth, since loading a conventional crop duster hopper from the side is equally easy. Number 2. Airbus A380. The A380 is a technological behemoth by almost all metrics. On metrics alone, the A380 would perhaps be considered the best aircraft to have ever existed, but that is not true. Several problems are stemming from the A380. From an engineering perspective, the aircraft is amazing, if not more so than the 747. Sorry, diehard Boeing fans. However, the problem comes with infrastructure. Only a handful of airports in the world can accommodate the size and weight of the A380. Many passengers have also noticed that queues for boarding and exiting the aircraft are almost unbearable. Almost 800 people squeezed out of only 2 doors. Due to the sheer number of passengers, queues at passport control are also nearly unbearable. Baggage check-in too is a pain. Almost 800 people trying to get one of 800 bags? Talk about a nightmare. Number 1. Ilyushin Il-62. The Ilyushin Il-62 suffers many of the same afflictions that the Il-96 does. The Il-62 is a much slower aircraft than the Vickers VC-10. On a commercial level, the seats have almost zero comfort, feeling as though you're sitting on a rock more than an airline seat. There's also the poor maintenance and thus the poor safety standard of the Il-62 that makes it truly one of the worst aircraft ever built. In fact, it's not uncommon to hear about Il-62's thrust reversers blow up. Then there's also the point that it's probably a USSR espionage design, taken from VC-10. Instead of improving on the design, the Il-62 was made worse in order to not appear as the total result of espionage. What do you think? Which airplane was the worst one? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video from us. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video, and thank you for watching.